Welcome, everyone. Chris Evans podcast. By the way, first podcast ever. Chris, I called my good buddy.
I love it.
Seth Robbins.
I'm guest number one.
Guest number one.
I love it. I love it.
Terrence Group. You ready for the cold?
I personally am ready for the cold. I hope our community and obviously you referenced Terra Insure Group. I hope my clients and their tenants and everybody else is prepared. Looks like it's going to be quite a doozy. I was just listening to old OKC weatherman Aaron Tuttle. Mm-hmm. He did a little midday update, and he said that we would definitely see some zero to negative in some parts of the state, but that it was moving fast and furious, and that he felt like the computer models weren't accurately predicting the severity of how cold it will be.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's coming, and nothing we can do about it. Should be sometime between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. it hits.
So have you always liked the cold?
I can't stand the cold.
Okay, well, you came off like, yeah, I'm ready for it.
No, I'm ready. I'm prepared. I'm prepared. If there's not snow behind it, I'm not interested.
So you're the guy that's 101 degrees. We'll take that over 11 degrees?
Always take the heat over the cold. Every day.
I'm always seasonal. I'm like, man, I can't wait till it gets cold. And then I'm tired of this because at least you can go outside and enjoy it.
True. But this I don't mind. Once it gets beneath about 40, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, totally the same way. So they called it Siberian front, wind chill warning. I saw the minimum was like maybe negative 14. I guess not only cold temperatures, but the wind. Yeah,
so the last time we were under this I don't know if you'd call it severe or
wind chill warning?
Serious wind chill warning. They said was 2011. And if you remember there, right after the first of the year in 2011, we broke all kinds of records. It got like negative 23 up by like Nowata, Bartlesville way. Mm-hmm. But that was the last time we had this kind of National Weather Service wind chill warning. And that's going to be what's going to pack the punch. I guess they're saying 40, 45 mile an hour winds and everything else. And so, the big thing is for me, as I get older, I worry more. I've always worried about it, but I keenly feel it more, and it makes it hard to sleep at night during times like this. As you think about animals that are outside mm-hmm. that can't be brought in or won't be brought in. You think about those who are less fortunate that might not have heat. God forbid they may be homeless. And just the danger of it, and to me, it's one of the more scarier weather phenomenons.
Yeah, so I guess I took some notes down. 6 a.m. around 13 degrees. That doesn't count the wind chill, and that's when the winds. But I think I saw the lowest like around 3 degrees around noon or so on Thursday.
I think that's the case, and then I think it kind of gradually starts to dig its way out. High teens on Friday, maybe some 20s on Saturday. But in terms of for us in the insurance business, this is probably the hardest weather category. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is, it all depends on what type of policy you have. And so if they get on TV and they say tornado, I'm worried, I'm upset, it's stressful. But if you have an insurance policy on a piece of property in Oklahoma, you're going to have wind coverage.
Yeah.
If they say baseball size hail, if you have a policy on a structure in Oklahoma, you're going to be covered for that. Water damage ensuing from either frozen pipes or a failed appliance, that's more of a moving target. And sometimes it doesn't show up for long periods. And so for us in the insurance business, it's a pretty scary phenomenon because especially if, people are gone on vacation, nobody's watching their house, your house can fill up with water, and, a small water leak can just do devastating amounts
especially
of damage.
Up in the roof.
Especially up in the roof.
Or ceiling, I should say.
Yeah, anytime there's overhead plumbing and things like that. And so in our business, it's scary because not everybody has that type of coverage. Uh-huh. And that can be for various reasons. It may be a financial decision to have lower premium. It may be because the property's vacant. It may be because the property is not in such great condition, and so the type of policy that was purchased might not have that coverage. And And so for us in our industry, the freezing temps are a little, I would say, at least for me, it's a little bit more stressful than your run-of-the-mill Oklahoma wind and hail or a fire, So it behooves everybody to take precautions to protect their property.
So most of the storms like this that we're going to have, the most people, is it broken water pipes is the number one thing?
Yeah, broken water pipes, and a water hose is not been unhooked.
Yeah.
And so that copper that runs through the brick or through the siding, that first 5 or 6 inches freezes, splits, and then you've got this seep and this spray in the wall, and it's not readily evident, and then it just becomes a big issue, and then you're dealing with tear out, you're dealing with wet carpet, and then eventually mold and things like that. So obviously if your house burns down or gets blown away by a tornado, that's much more severe. But this is just, it's definitely a moving target in the insurance world, water damage and water claims and things like that. So, just the run-of-the-mill type common sense things. The number one thing you can do is open the doors beneath your plumbing, beneath a sink, especially if that plumbing is on an exterior wall, and even so much the more if it's on a north-facing wall. So getting those doors open so the heat can circulate in. The old adage used to be drip your faucets.
Yep.
Really anymore, the recommendation is a small stream, a mixture of both hot and cold. That typically does the trick because it keeps that water moving, and moving water has a much harder time of freezing. I know at my house, we live in a 1950s house over by Guthrie Junior High, and if we ever do freeze up, it's on the north side of the house, and it's always the hot lines.
The exterior walls.
Yeah. And I wasn't, an A student in physical science or whatever category of science that would be, but for some reason, it's always the hot side that always freezes. So keeping those faucets moving, keeping that water moving through your faucet, opening those cabinet doors, and then obviously, my nephew is a first responder here in Guthrie. Just went to work for Eric and the guys down here at GFD, and he was allowing to me that when we have storms like this, I think there's a 65% uptick in their calls, and a lot of that is space heater safety.
Yep.
And again, common sense. My favorite kind of space heater for situations like this are those ones that look like an old radiator.
I have one.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have 3 of those at my house.
Yep.
I put one in the basement and one on both ends of our house.
Yep.
They're fairly safe. If they fall over, they have a kill switch, but they never get so hot. They don't have any exposed elements to ignite, towels or newspapers or things like that.
Yep.
So it just behooves everybody to be very careful. I understand having to use a space heater. I have to use a space heater.
Yeah.
But it behooves you to be very careful with them, and make sure you're not overloading your sockets because they pull a lot of juice. And luckily for us, thank God, this seems to be a quick moving thing.
Yes.
And so by the weekend, we're going to be out of the woods. It's when you get a weather system like this that roots in for 7 to 10 days where, we saw last year, we even have mains in the ground freezing and breaking. Yeah. So thankfully this is in and out within 48 hours. And then I see by this time next week, we're back up in the 60s.
Yeah. And I got some things to add to your list as well. Real quickly on the water lines, I guess cold doesn't discriminate against old houses, new houses. Do you see more of the older homes?
Obviously, the more modern homes with the more modern plumbing, they seem to perform a little better.
Yeah.
But anytime you've got plumbing on an outside wall or that runs in your attic, I don't care if your house was built last year or 100 years from now, it's going to be really hard to keep those frozen. The only reason that a newer home or a recently renovated home would have a little better chance is the construction now with the different types of plastic compounds that the pipes are made of. They allow, I think I talked to one of my plumber clients not too long ago, and he said that modern PEX will swell to 4 times its original size without splitting, where if you've got copper's pretty much the worst in terms of popping open and causing seeps and sprays. But obviously the older homes where insulation was less efficient or has possibly deteriorated over the years, and that's the problem in my house. It's built in 1956. A lot of the insulation is just old and it's not as effective anymore. And so, you just have to pay attention to it. And it's, you hear it, it's a bumper sticker saying, but an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Everybody just needs to take it serious and watch out.
Yeah, I think last year's storm helped a lot of people prepare for this storm. I know the grocery stores are full, and the last storm that I had, I remember my house was without power for like 12 days. And so one of the things that we're doing, I didn't put it on my list, but we're bringing firewood up to the house and using the extra heat to help with the energy.
Yes,
not only for our bills, our money, but statewide, we ran into some issue. Texas really ran into it with some.
Yeah. So on that subject, couple of good tips from my side of the table, from the insurance industry. If you were to, with these heavy winds coming, if we were to lose power today, know where your water meter is and get yourself out a crescent wrench or a pair of vice grips.
We got the fancy.
I do too.
Yeah.
I have one of those too in the corner of my garage. Leave it to the insurance guy to have that, but
leave it to the lazy guys.
Right. Know where your cutoff is, or know where your water meter is, because if you do lose power, no amount of running your water is going to help in this kind of weather. So my suggestion would be, if you did lose power, fill up a couple of 5-gallon buckets, fill up a couple of milk jugs, and then go cut it off.
Yeah.
I was talking to a client on my way here, and he has a piece of property up in Perry that he's working on to renovate. And he just went up there and preemptively turned it off and opened the faucets to drain the system out. And if you have a vacant piece of property or a RV or something like that, obviously that's your best bet, is just to drain the lines completely.
I've learned my hot water tank has a main water thing off. It shuts the water off everywhere, obviously.
Okay, so you'd have the water to the hot water tank, but then everywhere else you got cut off.
That's the quick fix.
Yeah.
So you can get bundled up, go outside.
Right.
I just learned that after the hot water tank sprung a leak.
It's nice to know where your cutoffs are.
Yeah.
And in more modern houses, they may have a cutoff where the service comes into the house. But at my house, when we've had leaks before, I just have to go out on the Cleveland side of my house, pop the lid off, pair of vice grips, boom, turn my water off. And, you can really save yourself a lot of problems. And many times, when these things happen, the first assumption is, well, it's okay. I have insurance. It's going to be fine. Again, don't rely on that because you just never know how those things are going to shake out. And so
it takes a while for that process to work out. Meanwhile, you have to get that fixed. You just can't let it sit as the paperwork and all that stuff goes through.
It's a way bigger inconvenience than it's worth to possibly, receive a claim check. And then not to mention
not having water.
Not to mention not having water. And then another thing too, kind of a side note on that is, if you do have a standard special form homeowners policy that does have coverage for bulging or broken pipes, accidental release of water, I guess is what some people call it. Yes, what that water does once it intrudes into your house, you would have coverage for, but they don't pay to fix your pipe.
Right.
So it's a way bigger hassle.
It is.
And it may be I think the average burst pipe claim in the United States, I looked the other day, and it's like $6,000, right, in damage. But I promise you, it's going to take a lot of money to fix that plumbing. It's going to be a big pain in the tail drying out your stuff, and then you have future potential mold issues. It's just, this is the worst. I've said it once in this podcast, said it several times. This is the worst peril in my 15 years of experience. It's the worst peril to have happen to you is a water leak, because it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and it's a huge hassle.
And your house is all messed up. The drywall's cut out, all the lines.
And it just never seems like it's ever as nice as it was before.
Yeah.
But not to harp too much on the insurance side and the prevention side. You and I are very much closet dog lovers.
Right.
Right. You and I growing up probably would have been the last two people I ever would have thought would, be so head over heels for animals. But if you do have an outside dog, and I understand every dog can't come in your house, but gosh.
Back porch,
get a little igloo, bring it in the garage, lock it in the laundry room, roll up some towels. I hate to even admit to this, but I've got one of those sheds outside of my house that's up on skids. And as evidenced by all the social media crosstalk, we have a pretty bad stray problem in Guthrie, right? And there's a pretty wild little cat colony that lives over by the junior high. And they're always under my shed. And we have a hate-hate relationship. I hate them and they hate me.
Right.
But even,
we don't get along either.
Even me, with my Grinch heart where cats are concerned, I put a sleeping bag under my shed.
Look at you.
Because I can't stand the thought of those cats out there at night. Even though I'm going to call them the truce for 1 night, 2 nights at max, and then I'm going to be back to trapping them and getting rid of them. But I can't stand the thought of them being cold. And then other segment of our population that I feel for is our farmers and ranchers, right? I don't know when calving season is and when it's not, but I do know that it seems like, talking to some of my farm clients, that when these big cold fronts hit like this, if a mama cow is close to delivering, it's almost a guarantee she's going to drop that calf. And back in 2011, and some of the big snaps we've had, I've heard of the calves like losing an ear to frostbite because they come out wet and then they immediately flash freeze. And those folks, those farmers and ranchers that we depend on for our meals, they don't get to stay in tonight and tomorrow night and the next night.
The odds of us seeing a Tinny Maker or Mike Nevins having a cow being birthed is
pretty high.
To see it on Facebook is highly
pretty
high
high
in the next couple of days.
And so I worry about the animals, and I know that they're tough and they're designed to be out in it, but if you do have domestic pets, do everything you can, and then you know in your neighborhood, the people who may not have a very efficient home or may not be able to run their heat. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly. Make sure they've got plenty of blankets, things like that. We're kind of, I don't want to get too dramatic about this, but we're all in it together.
Yeah. I remember now it's way too cold to do this, but putting hay in the dog houses. I remember doing that back in the day as a kid.
Anything you can do to keep those animals from being on the virgin ground. I learned that from Bear Grylls' survival show. You got to have something between you and the dirt. Something about the convection or conduction. Again, not a scientist.
Right.
But you got to have something between them and the earth. So
absolutely. I wrote a few things down. If you go out, dress for the weather, 2 or 3 layers. We talked about pets. Follow instructions on heating sources, and we always talk about getting too close to stuff that can catch fire, but also the carbon monoxide is a big deal.
Yeah, if you end up running a generator, make sure that it's properly ventilated or away from your home where it's not. Even sometimes putting it on a covered back porch can be dangerous. That those fumes can collect. If you do end up with a frozen pipe, I've had clients before burn their entire house down thawing out a pipe.
Yeah.
Right? Don't use a torch directly on a frozen spot. I sent a text out. I have 4 children, 2 in-laws and grandkids, and I sent a group text out to our family reminding all of my kids to go fill their cars up with gas.
Yep.
Because for the next couple of days, you're not going to want to get out of your car and fill it up with gas. Fill your car up with gas.
I put a little winter kit in there.
Yeah,
a blanket.
Put a little winter kit, a blanket. Charge your cell phones. Again, it's going to be in and out quick, but it can get real crazy really quick. And with the winds coming in like they're wanting to come in, we could have power outages, and that would be catastrophic. With these kind of temps.
Yeah, wind gusts 40, 55 miles an hour is what I saw with the National Weather Service. I guess one last thing to kind of put a bow on this one is to insulate those water lines. Is the good old rag washcloth and with the cover on it.
Yeah.
From a $1 cover and
rags. Those little styrofoam caps that you can put on your outside faucets. And if you don't have those, you can wrap them with a towel and put some tape around them. Where the gaping holes are in your house. Again, like I said before, I live in an old house. I don't know how our house has been configured through the years. What was the front door? What was the back door? But somehow or another, in my bedroom, in this old house, there's a mail slot. And this mail slot is basically right behind my bald head when I sleep. And so one of the things I did this weekend is I got a couple of tea towels and wrapped them up and shoved them in that mail slot just to kind of cut down on the amount of draft that comes in there. But, luckily this afternoon the sun peaked out for a little bit and we got above 40. And if this was going to be a 7 to 10 day event, I would really be buckling up for some big time problems. But hopefully it comes and it goes. And, I don't know. We don't have any open shelters here in Guthrie, but I'm assuming that if we did have widespread power outages, some of the churches and community facilities might open up. I know I did see that Hope House was opening up for just walk-ins.
Okay.
I don't know their normal intake process, but I did see something on Facebook. If you are housing insecure, so to speak, all the way up to homeless, I think they would take probably just about anybody to save life and limb right now. And, don't be afraid to ask your neighbors for help.
Absolutely. Yeah, the record low for this coming Friday on that day is -8, and we're looking around 3, of course. That's got the wind chill. So it's been colder.
It's definitely been colder. It's definitely been colder, but the combination of the wind coming in, thank God we're out of school.
Yeah.
Dr. Simpson's not having to, make 50% of the people happy and 50% of the people mad by canceling or not canceling school. And then by Sunday church, which being Christmas Sunday, everybody go to your house of worship.
Yep.
By Sunday, we should be fine to move around again. And I'm just really crossing my fingers for my sake, my grandgirl's sake, that maybe we'll get a few snowflakes with it.
Yeah, that would be a little bonus.
Something about the presence of snow makes it feel less cold.
Your go-to guys, Aaron Tuttle. What is he saying? Snow?
He said that he is his last.
I'm at Woodward and Gage and
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah, they'll have
snow.
But he said that there's a good chance. He said something about the jet stream being right overhead, that if the right little piece of energy pops up, we could see some snow flurries on Christmas. I'd take anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. And, man, I love your studio and all you got going here with Second Banana and GNP. And we've been really blessed as an agency to get to be a part of the football broadcasts all these years. And I know I'm not just plugging for you because – we go to church together, we graduated together, you're a client, but our community is very lucky to have you. And as this community grows, having basically an on-demand 24/7 source of news is sure a blessing and sure a comfort, and we appreciate what you do.
I appreciate that, and everyone stay inside so I don't have to get out and do anything coverage-wise. But Terrence Group, TIGOK.com. 622 South Division. How's the new office?
We just
Christmas lights look great.
Thank you. Cade Whitfield, Frontline Services, is who did that for me, and great kid, fireman too, by the way.
Yes.
We've been there about 14 months and absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It's funny how moving 1 mile back towards the core, it's so much of a hustle and bustle than we had out by the drive-in. And one thing that I've learned that I didn't understand about Guthrie, because we have the big, nice new sidewalks, Guthrie is a huge walking community. Mm-hmm. And so for those folks who do use Division as that thoroughfare over the next couple of days, bundle up and cover that skin.
Yep. 2 to 3 layers. Okay, I know 622 South Division. I know TIGOK.com. I can never remember the phone number.
It's okay. 405-293-4880.
I don't know if I can remember. I got everything else down, but that one's the hard one.
4880, and we're just started our 14th year, and love serving this community. I'm excited to be in the insurance industry in a community like this that, at least from this local boy's eyes, I think the next 10 to 15 years is just going to explode with growth. Yeah. And it's exciting to be in the insurance business in Guthrie.
Very cool. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to the Chris Evans Podcast, a part of the Second Banana Media. Be sure to subscribe and follow on all your favorite social media and podcasts.